Good morning, jr4. Hope all of you are okay. Now let's start with lesson 4 on concept 3, which is talking about reflection. Don't forget that we're still talking about the light. We said that when the light falls or strikes on an object, so it will reflect. But to be honest, when the light fall on an object, so we have 3 steps that the light will be take. Number 1, some of light will be fall or pass through the object, and some of light will be return back or reflect or bouncing, and some of light will be absorbed through the matter. Now, if we have 3 types of the matter, if we have plastic or wood or clothes or paper, and we started to fall a source of light on them, we will find that the light will be absorbed with a large amount and reflect with a small amount. But if we use material like mirror or metal, so we will find that some of matter will be absorbed, some of light will be absorbed, but large amount of light will be reflected. And finally, if we use a piece of glass, so we will find that a very small amount of light will be reflected. So now we can say that any shiny and smooth materials such as mirror and metals reflect the light better than the other materials, which means that the large amount will be for the reflection. But rough materials like plastic, wood, clothes, and paper will reflect the light, but with less amount than the smooth and shiny. And finally, with the transparent materials such as glass, so it will reflect a very small amount of light. So if we need to arrange the materials according to the most amount of light that will be reflected to the lowest amount of the light to be reflected. So we will start with the shiny and smooth materials, then rough materials, and finally with the transparent materials because they reflect a very small amount of the matter. Okay. After that, we said that don't forget that light, you have to know 4 informations about the light. Number 1, light is one form of energy. Number 2, light is visible, and visible means that you can see. Number 3, light travels in a straight line. Number 4, light travels in the form of waves. Okay. Now, if we start to try to follow the light in front of object or on an object, so we will face 2 types of the object. Object that don't allow light to pass through it, like if we have a book and we started to follow the light on the book. So if anything is that behind this book, we can't see it. Why? Because book is an opaque object, which is don't allow any matter. Don't allow any light to pass through it. Like what? Like plastic, wood, and metal, and so on. And at the same time, we will find that opaque objects form something which is called shadow. What is meant by shadow? Shadow is something like that. We have a tree and we have the source of light, which is the sun. When the rays of the light will fall on an object like the tree, it will form darkened area behind it, which is called shadow. So shadow means darkened area. Shadow means darkened area that formed due to the light fall on an opaque object. The second type of the material that maybe we face when we start to fall the light on the material or on the objects, transparent objects. What is meant by transparent objects? Transparent objects means objects that allow light to pass through it. So we can see what behind it. Like what? Like air, water, window, and lenses, and so on. That's why when we start to see from the window, we can see what behind it through the glass because it's a transparent object. So now we can conclude that we have opaque and we have transparent objects. The keywords of opaque that don't allow light to pass through it and we can see what behind it. But the keywords of transparent objects that allow light to pass through it and we can see the objects that behind it. So when we started to solve this scientific term, at the first he asked about objects that allow light to pass through it, so it will be transparent, transparent, transparent objects, okay? Objects that don't allow light to pass through it, so it will be opaque objects. Okay, now we have the second part, which is talking about when we started to pull the light on a shiny or on a reflecting surface. We will find that the reflection depends on the smoothness of the surface, which means that if we have something like the mirror, so we will find that mirror smooth and one plane, so it will reflect all the lights as you see in one direction, in only one direction, which means that with the same angle, so same angle equivalent to the word of one direction. But if we have surface like that, rough, don't take the straight line, so we will find that the rays or the reflected rays will take different directions like that we see right now. So they are reflected with uh, different directions or with different angles, okay? So if we need to conclude that how we can, how does the human and animal see the objects? So at the first we need source of light. After that, this light will fall on an object that you need to see. After that, the light will be reflected from the object by different ratios, as we said before. If it is opaque, so it will reflect with a small amount. If it is transparent, so it will reflect with a very small amount. If it is shiny or smooth material, so it will reflect with a large amount. At the end, all of them have to reflect their lights to reach to our eyes to can see. After that, we start with concept 2. Our eyes start to send specific messages to our brains or our brain to through electrical through the spinal cord in the form of electrical impulses to can alarm the brain. After that, brain start to understanding or processing these informations to can understood them very well. Then start to search in the memory. Is it something known for you or it's the first time to see it? Then start our brain to respond with a suitable response. Okay. Now, true, false. Shiny objects tend to Shiny objects tend to reflect the light better than rough, so it will be right. Would reflect light more than mirror? Would reflect light more than mirror? Of course, no, because we said that at the first shiny, then the rough, after that transparent. Transparent glass reflect light less than metal, so it will be right. Okay. After that, choose the correct answer. Which of the following objects is shiny and smooth? Metallic spoon, plastic spoon, and a wooden chair. So we will choose what? Metallic spoon. All, number 2, all the following materials are rough except, so we will choose except what? Except the mirror, because clothes, wood, rough. Rough means to be dark, also junior 4, okay? So clothes, wood, paper, and clothes, wood, paper, all of them are examples about the rough and the plastic and so on, okay? Now lesson 5 is talk about model. This model refers to the reflection process or the vision process. Look at the opposite figure, then put true or false. Number 1, light comes out from light comes out of the eye and falls on the sheet, so we can see the sheet. Of course not. We said that light reach to eyes, not come come out of eye. Light travels from the source of light and then to the source of to the sheet, then reflect off into our eyes to can see. Sure, it's correct. After that, imagine that we have a model for the vision process. Now we have a pole. This pole will fall on the wall, then reflect to the basket. Okay. Now we can consider that the bouncing ball refers to what or represents what. So it will represent or refers to the light rays that fall on the object, and we can consider that wall is the object. So after that, it will reflect to reach to our eyes. That's why we can see. So light reflects of an object into eyes, so we can see the objects clearly. Okay. Now let's start with the last lesson in this concept, which is lesson 6, which is talking about how we can see with the missing part. We just said that the light reached to our eyes, then to the brain. But to be honest, between the eye and the brain is a missing point that we will talk about it right now. At the first, you have to know that the lens, which the glasses, which made after that lenses, start to focus the sun rays always in a one point or in a concentrated point. Okay, so our eyes also act as the lens that made of glass. Okay, which means that our lens will also collect or focus all the formations in only one point. For example, now we have our eyes, which is called cornea, okay, and we have here lens, we have source of light, and we have membranes in the back of eye. Okay, now we know that we can see. So the external part will start with source of light, then source of light will fall on an object. After that, it will reach to our eyes. After reach to our eyes, our lens started to act as the glass lens. So it will be started to, as you can see right now, that it will be focus or collect the informations in just one point, like here. Okay. After that, we start with concept 2. We start to send this point to the brain, then the brain started to search in the memory, then respond with a suitable answer. But now we can say that we can see very well, so our lens has to collect or focus this information in just one point on the back of eye. Without this point, jr4, we can see very well. Without this point, we can see very well. So we need to collect any information that our eyes will focus or collect from the external or from the stimuli in just one point on the focus on the back of the eye. Okay, but sometimes we found that there are people that have large problems with the vision, which means that sometimes we found that people can't see the objects that near to them, or can see the objects which are very far from them, or they can't distinguish the colors, or they can't differentiate between the colors. So all these people have to go to the doctor, which is responsible for eye, which is called هنا عندي optometrist. Okay. And the doctor started to determine or examine the case and started to determine what is the defect or what's the problem for the this person, and started to solve it. So started to say that if if a person can see very well the near object or the far object, or he can't distinguish or differentiate between the colors, so he started to determine the problem and say that he maybe need glasses or contact lens like the glasses junior 4, but we have to go to the doctor to made a medical contact lens, okay, to be suitable with the defects of our eyes, to can correct the vision and can see clearly like the normal people, or using laser surgery, but it needs specific cases like need the specific age and a specific defect in our eyes and so on. Now let's solve this small evaluation. Put true false. The lens inside the eye, the lens inside the eye, focus the light onto the back of the eye will be correct, and that's why we can see.